Hello, and welcome to The Prodigal Life. I'm Deacon Harold, and I'm joined, as usual, by Nick and Ellen. And we are here to help you make a deeper, stronger, more intimate connection between your faith and your everyday life.
That's right. And sometimes we need just that extra little kick in our faith life, which obviously this show is here to provide, but it's especially effective when we do so with a guest that is as handsome as today's guest. Ellen, would you please introduce our guest for today?
I would love to. We have with us the genius and the brains behind CatholicBrain.
I see the pun there.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to do that. This is Mosongo Osong, and he has a powerful testimony, is what I've heard. I personally have never heard it, but I've heard from others that it is pretty remarkable because I believe you're originally from Cameroon, correct, Mosongo?
Yes, Ellen, and I'm glad to be here with you guys. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You don't sound like you're from Kansas, so.
And actually, for the uninitiated, where is Cameroon?
Where is Cameroon?
Cameroon is in West Africa, very close to Nigeria.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. So that's a big area. So tell us your story. I honest to Lord, I don't even know where you're going to start, but we're just going to be happy that you do.
Again, just thank you guys for inviting me. I hope next time I'll be there in person. But I'm originally from Cameroon, West Africa. I was raised Catholic. Very devout Catholic family. My granddad, from my dad's side, was very daily mass Catholic. So I grew up in the faith, went to an all-boys Catholic school, boarding school, very, very strict school. There was daily mass. We actually had evening mass. So it was all boys, about 1,000 students. So I went there in middle school. I was about probably 11 years old. And we'll come home only during spring break and Christmas and then summer. But it was a very strict Catholic school. I loved the faith. I loved going to mass. Was actually a mass, an altar boy. And then and I love sports. I was very athletic. So played soccer, I did track, and played tennis. So I had all of that. My goal back then when I was 12, I would say I want to be a doctor, right? I wanted to be a doctor. I was a very good kid, right? So, but that changed when I was in 8th grade. All of that just changed. I believe in 8th or 9th grade. Something happened that would change my life, turn me to a different person. So this is all boys Catholic school. So one day I'm with a couple of friends. The school normally would give us like a break to go out to the city and shop and then come back after a few hours. So I went out with friends. We were shopping, and then I couldn't find them for a few minutes. So I started looking around. I'm like, where did these guys go? And then I found them in a bar, drinking and smoking, right? I think I was 13 years then, right? Just drinking. I was pretty upset. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? So they invited me to join them. I said, no, I am not doing that. So went back to school, but it got me thinking, right? I told them, you guys should not be doing that, but it was in my mind. I was like, started thinking, maybe it might be fun, right? But then that peer pressure, they started saying, well, you're a weak boy, a soccer boy, school boy, altar boy, all that. They started calling me names. So the next time, the school gave us, some time to go out to the city. So I joined them, right? I joined them this time. They went to the same bar. And so I joined them. I took a beer. Again, I was 13 years old. I took a beer and, had a cigarette. They weren't doing drugs. So that was good then. So then went back to the school and, I wasn't feeling good, right? I just kind of slept all night. And then, that was just the beginning. The next day, I was like, okay. So these guys were skipping school like every weekend. I didn't know that. So I started joining them every weekend. We'll go out, we'll party, we'll go to nightclubs, and we started getting in trouble. This is a 13-year-old boy, right? And then by the time I go home in the summer, my parents could not recognize me. Normally in the summer, I'll be playing soccer. Hanging out with, going to church and doing all that stuff. But I was a completely a different kid. I was looking for places to hang out, go to nightclubs. In Cameroon, the system doesn't really, they don't, for a minor, it's funny, they will sell you stuff so long as you have money, right? And I was fortunate. I grew up in Cameroon, but my dad had the means. We're like upper middle class. So I grew up in a big city. So, so the money was there. It wasn't a problem. So I would steal my dad's money, just go out and party. And my parents were like, wait a minute, what's happening here? What happened to our son? This was a good kid, athletic, loves to go to church. What's going on? So they're trying to figure out, what's happening. But I was gone. By the time I was 15, I was pretty, I was all gone. And, I stopped praying. I used to pray even as a young boy. When I was 10 years old, I had an experience just looking at myself in the mirror, right? Looking at myself in the mirror and asking very specific questions about who made me, what am I here to do, where am I going? So I had a very good relationship from a very young age, but that didn't last. I had this new lifestyle, the party, the drinking. I didn't do drugs. I didn't like it. I tested it, but I never liked it. So I was very
Praise
blessed
God.
to not get into that. Yeah. So because my friends were doing it, but I tried it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I prefer the drinks and the ladies. So by 15, I was partying very hard. My funny thing, I was still managed to pray at night, even when I'm like super high, drunk. I would make the sign of the cross and say, Our Father, and just go to bed. My parents could not stop me. And then my dad moved to the United States when I was 16. And that was worse. My mom could not stop me. I just kept drinking and partying. And then I ended up dropping out of high school. Right? But before that, they actually expelled me from the Catholic school, the all-boy Catholic school. I was expelled from that school. I was expelled from like 3 other private schools.
Wow.
So it was like very intense. And then ended up dropping off high school at 17. I was just partying and just out of control. So my dad calls and he said, boy, you have to go back to school, go get your GED. If you want to come to the United States, you got to go to school and finish up. That was, I really wanted to come to the US. So I said, okay. He said, but this is what we're going to do. You're going to move to my sister's house. She's a very devout Catholic. She's very strict. You're going to stay there. You go to a public school and you get your GED, then I can get your papers for you to come over. I said, okay, I will do that. So I go into my aunt's house. This is not a big city. It's a small town. So I went in. I didn't like it, but I had no choice, right? Because that was the only option. That's when my dad said, you got to get the GED. You got to go to my sister's house. That's how you're going to come to the United States. So I did that and signed up. My aunts registered me for a public school. I didn't like the school. I was not used to public schools. It was just awkward. So I said, well, I got to do this, right? But then I ended up making friends because I always had money. I made friends and, I was, taking people out of, just taking people to party, to drink and, go to nightclubs. And for some reason, my aunt was very prayerful. She would go to mass every day. She prays like 4 times a day, rosary, everything. Midnight, she's praying. So I'll be coming home like midnight. She's there praying. She's very strict, but this time she wasn't talking to me. She only tried to love me. She was soft. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Something is, she wasn't strict at all. So I come sometimes at midnight. She's there praying. She opens the door. She's like, are you okay? I go to bed. Her whole house, I could tell that house is filled with the Holy Spirit. This holy water, it's like a mini church, parish. There's everything in that house. And, you know, I had been living this life. I wasn't going to the school. I was just skipping all the classes. I wasn't going to the school at all. And she knew it, but she wasn't talking to me. I think she was only praying for me. I think she was actually fasting and really praying for me to change. So one day I took a shower and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was feeling really bad. I started feeling sick, like I was going to die because I wasn't eating right. I was just partying, drinking. So I said, no, yeah, my body was telling me, man, you're going to go down. So I looked at myself in the mirror and I remember the 10-year-old boy who used to look at himself in the mirror asking questions. All that just came back. Then I heard a voice, it's not a voice, but just something just said, what are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to yourself? And this was instant. I was 19 years old then. I just fell on my knees. I started crying and praying. And I didn't go out. I slept all night. I took the Bible, started reading the Bible, and I was completely lost. I was a lost teenager. So I was looking around. I'm like, okay, something happened. It's like I came back to my senses. And I started asking myself, what have I been doing for 6 years? Right, like from 13 years, the age of 13 to 19, I've been completely lost. My friends are now in college. I don't know where I'm at, right? I have 4 siblings. My elder sister left to the US, and I was just lost. I was just a lost kid. So I cried for like a week, and I realized that the devil had entered me and took control of my life. So, and I started asking the Lord, okay, Lord, what do I do now? What do I do? What do I do? What's next? So I was to go out, but I wanted to stop the drinking, stop the party. I was praying intensely, praying the rosary, reading the Bible, and asking God, please lead me. I'm lost. Show me the way. And then one day I was going out to meet a friend. This is still in this small city, where I grew up in a big city. This is where my aunt lives. So I go out to look for my friend, my drinking buddy, right? We were very close. He noticed that I had changed, but I didn't have the courage to tell him what I was going through. So I was going to his house, and then down the street, I met this girl, right? I met this girl, and I asked her, have you seen my friend Joe? She's like, no, I haven't seen him. I said, well, okay, I'm just going to sit down here and wait for him. They have like a bar at the entrance. So I'm just going to sit there. I didn't take a beer. I just took a Coke. Just sitting down and waiting for my friend. And then I just talked to the girl. I asked her if she could join me and sit down. She said yes. We started talking and talking. And then the Holy Spirit, I just heard a silent voice that's telling me that's your wife. So I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know this person. How is she my wife? So we started talking, and she was 17. And I said, well, I just feel like, I told her, I feel like I'm going to marry you. She laughed off. She's like, you crazy guy. And that person is Sylvia.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So so that was, so I told her that I felt something, and I went back to her the next day. We started talking, and, after 3 months, we started dating. And then the rest is history, right? We got married 3 years after that. But the Lord showed me the way. He said, okay, I'm gonna walk with you. I'm gonna change you. So I fell in love with Christ. I fell in love with this young, beautiful woman, and that completely changed me. So I was just, and then Sylvia was telling me that, hey, I heard some stories about you. I heard you're like a bad boy. and then her brothers did not like me at all. They're like, this guy is bad news. You should not be dating him. So Bert, she's like, This guy's praying, he's reading the Bible. I had a routine. I would pray 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I had to pray all the time because I didn't want anything to do with my past, right? So I completely changed. And then for 3 years, I stayed very sober, didn't drink, and moved to the United States 2002, 2003, and reunited with my father. I had some friends, few of my friends that were all partying together also moved to the United States. They were living in Maryland. So I reconnected with them, and I wanted to also evangelize and change them. I was a completely different boy. My dad was proud of me. I started going to daily mass with him when I moved to the United States. And 6 months after I came here, I went to Maryland to visit my friends, three of my friends. They were still drinking and partying, right? They've left Cameroon. The parents are rich. They have money. They're partying, not going to college because they came here for college. So I met with them in Maryland. They realized that I'm a completely changed man. I tried to evangelize by hanging out with them, not drinking too much, Bert, trying to tell them about Jesus. And then this was December 2003. No, January 1st, 2004. We were driving together, hanging out. I was telling these guys to go back to college, to give their life to Christ. We're sitting down at my cousin's house, apartment in Maryland, Silver Spring. And, we were going to different places, but I said, let's stay home. Let's not go out. So, and they said, well, let's go to a place and have a drink. I went with them. And then it was like 4, maybe about 3 a.m. I said, let's go back. Let's go back to my cousin's house. Let's relax. They were, some of them, 2 of them were like high. It's just because they were doing drugs. I wasn't doing drugs with them. I wasn't doing anything. I was trying to evangelize because they were my best friends from elementary school. And so that morning, like 5 a.m., they were arguing, they were just fighting, they were so intoxicated. I was just praying for them. So what happened is they dropped me at my cousin's house. And I was begging them to stay there, not go back to wherever they wanted to go. They left, they dropped me. They said, no, Mosongo, we're going to go to this other place. It's January 1st. We got a party till all day. I said, well, that's your call. You guys should relax. They said no. So when they dropped me, they left. After 10 minutes, they had a car accident. They all died.
Oh my gosh.
They all this is like my second conversion because I was changed, right? I was trying to evangelize, Bert, just go back to all these friends and change them. And then this incident happened.
I'm so sorry, Mosongo.
That's terrible. I'm very sorry.
Yeah. Well, this just kind of changed. I was shocked. So the next day I'm driving with my cousin. My flight back to Dallas was, I think, January 3rd. So this is January 2nd morning. And I'm calling them. I'm like, guys, I have a flight back. You guys want to hang out for the last time? Nobody's picking up the phone, which was weird. And then one of my friends called me and said, hey, have you seen this guy? So I said, he heard about it, right? It was actually in the news, in the local news. He didn't tell me. I was driving with my cousin. And then finally, another friend calls me and say, hey, man, these guys, they're gone. So I literally took my phone and threw it out of the window. It's like, wow. So this was a big shock for me. And I started asking questions, man, God, why didn't you take me with these guys? I was with these guys all day from afternoon, January 1st to morning, January 2nd. Why did you decide? Because what happened is when I think they had to drop me, leave before this happened. Yeah. So I didn't talk for like 2 days. I was just
they were just as
quiet.
intoxicated driving you to your cousin's house as they were when they left. That accident could have happened with you in the car.
Right.
That's
but that wasn't God's plan.
Right.
It wasn't. So I was upset. I was asking questions. Okay, what do I do now? So I come back to Dallas. I was in college, studied accounting. I couldn't concentrate. I was each time I'm driving to school, I feel like those three boys are behind me, right? So I would stop like on the highway and like just cry. It was bad for like 3 months, and then I just started praying and asking the Lord, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
This is when I was 23. Then I just called Sylvia. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get married. She was in Cameroon. I'm just gonna get married, and I'm just gonna start a family. Life is too short. If my friends can die this young, I better just start a family and just. So that took me. I went for 3 months without. I was upset with God. I didn't like what happened to my friends. But then a priest told me that God has a plan. He explained to me what happened. So you have a purpose. That's why he didn't take you then. So you better use it for his glory. Instead of being mad at him, you have to give thanks and see what's next. So that was that's like a second conversion for me. And it took my faith to another level. So I got married the next year. All of them were buried in Cameroon. I actually went to visit their graveyard, paid tribute to them, and got married 2004. So I said, well, God, what do you want me to do now? What's the plan? I was in business school studying accounting. My goal was to start multiple companies. That was my whole vision. I was very passionate about being an entrepreneur from the age of 19. So that's all I wanted to do. I studied accounting because for me it was the language of business. So, but my whole vision, I had a whole book of ideas of businesses I was going to start. So after college, I started my first company in the medical space, doing medical billing services, software support. I built that business within 6 months, and it was successful.
Wow.
So that took off. So and I started a real estate company as well. I was buying and flipping houses. So that was my plan. I was just going to be in business and make lots of money. But God had a different plan. And so as I started having these kids, I realized I didn't know my Catholic faith very much, right? I went to a Catholic school. I love going to mass, but I really didn't understand the mass. I was praying the rosary. I didn't know why I was praying the rosary. It was just a cultural thing, you know what I mean? So I started going to these other non-denominational churches. I would listen to like charismatic preaching. I told my wife, like, maybe we should switch churches. So I was tempted, right? I was this close. I wanted to raise my kids Catholic. I really didn't know how, right? I didn't know a lot of specific things about the faith, right? So I just told Sylvia, okay, let's be careful here because I come from a very big Catholic family. I didn't want to be the first one to leave the church. So I started doing this whole research, started reading books, Dr. Scott Hahn, Dynamic Catholic, rediscover Catholicism, and reading the church fathers, the history. I was just reading a lot of books. After 6 months, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the real church. This is the church. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
That's beautiful.
So so I became very devout. This was like 2010. I decided to send my kids to a Catholic school. I said, okay, I'm going to be, even though I had this reversion, I knew the Bible, I had a relationship with Christ, but I didn't know my Catholic faith. So once I rediscovered my faith, I became very, very, very passionate. I became a knight, a Eucharistic minister, was teaching faith formation. I wanted to do everything. I was just so on fire.
Yes.
And I wanted to share it with all my Catholic friends that had left the church. Like, man, this is the church. So 2011, I started teaching faith formation. And I was teaching second and third grade faith formation. And I realized as an entrepreneur, I quickly realized a problem. There was a problem here. These kids didn't like coming to the class. They didn't like the books. They were extremely bored. They were always like, Mr. Osong, can we leave now? Is this almost over? They were bored. So I see these kids I'm teaching. I'm like, these kids, they're gonna be like me. They're gonna leave the church. They're extremely bored. So I started looking for ways to engage them. I was looking for a solution. That's what I do. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. Look for a solution to a problem. How can I fix this, right? How can I fix this issue of boring, non-engaging content? I had my business, secular business, which was successful, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I was looking for ways to engage these kids, and I'm like, okay, I need to come up with something. I couldn't find. I found some videos and some things I would use in the class, but it wasn't enough. And then my daughter comes home one day. She's second grader at the Catholic school. She comes home one day. She's like, "Daddy, religion class is the most boring class. I don't like religion class." So I was like, "Okay, Lord, that's it. How can I use my talent, my gift to serve the church, to solve this problem?" So I started praying and asking the Lord, and then all these ideas started coming. Create a tablet, create a website, do this, do all this. So long story short, I sold my secular business, sold one of my homes, put all the money. I started a Catholic company in 2014. So big risk, right? Big risk. And I talked to Sylvia. She was like, "Are you sure? We're taking all of our money, putting it in this." And I said, "Yeah, I think this is what God wants me to do. This is why He saved me from that accident. This is the purpose. It's all connecting. I'm getting
the clarity of that moment is so huge. That's amazing."
Yeah, right. There's clarity. Yeah. So I'm like, this is it. I talked to a priest. I talked to my dad, who's very devout Catholic. He's like, "Well, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. The devil is going to go after you. Are you ready?" I said, "Well, if this is what God wants me to do, if that's why He saved me, then I'm going to do it." So we launched the company in 2014. I think this is like my third conversion. Right? So this is a story. So I'm not very devout in my faith. I'm like breathing Catholic. I sleep Catholic. I wake up Catholic. I'm very Catholic.
Amen.
Now. So, yeah. So I started the business. I want to evangelize the faith. The mission was to create products that will engage kids to love learning their Catholic faith. Yeah. Right? Using technology and media. That was the mission. Very clear, plain and simple. So we launched the business. There was a lot of challenges. We started with a tablet, a Catholic tablet, all for kids. This is a product that will help kids to, because I see kids, they love gadgets. So why don't we create a gadget that has all Catholic stuff, and then kids will love it. So we launched that product. Put all of our money
I am
in the
very
business.
upset right now.
Why?
Because you have kids.
Because I have kids, and I didn't know about the Catholic Kids tablet, and I bought them stupid Amazon Fire Kids tablets, and I would have loved to have bought your Catholic tablets.
Oh man, you should.
I am gonna switch.
You heard it here on the Prodigal Life. Nick is gonna switch.
And the name of and did you name originally was the company name CatholicBrain? Is that how you originally started?
No, it was Biblezone, Biblezone.
Biblezone. Okay.
Yeah, that was the name of the tablet.
Okay.
Yeah. So we launched that, and within like a year, we sold like 3,000 copies of it. One of the challenges I knew this was going to take off big time. I was going to sell 50,000, 100,000 every year. That didn't happen. Right? You got all these parents.
He's choking
You
over
almost made me
here.
spit out my water. The way you said that, I was like, I knew we were going to sell 100,000 tablets, and then we didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
It was like 3,000 every year. I'm like, boy, and hardware is tough, right? The profit margin. I mean, it's a ministry, but you have to make a profit. Right. You got to pay employees. It's still a business, right? So, but the hardware, we weren't selling a lot of it because people were asking for apps. People love the content, but they're asking for, okay, we got all these gadgets. Can you just give us the app? I'm like, well, that gadget is a distraction. We're trying to put all this in a device that is distraction free, clean content, Catholic, but the people don't want to consume that, right? They still want
The app.
So we're fighting a big battle. With I didn't know Apple was a competition in my business plan. But I thought, okay, so we mostly had the homeschool parents buying the tablets, but all the parents, families that send their kids to a Catholic school, all of that, they're still getting iPads and Kindle, like Nick said, right? So that was a challenge. So, and then 3 years after that, 2014, we decided to. So we went to the schools with the tablets. We got a few schools would buy the tablets, a few parishes, but most of them were asking for a platform online, an app. So that's what led us to launching CatholicBrain, CatholicBrain.com, which is the website, the platform. And once we launched that, that took off. You know, at one point before we launched CatholicBrain, we lost all money. 2016, I lost everything. The money, all money gone, staff, because we were buying these tablets, ordering them from China. They sent me over 3,000, or is it 4,000 bad products, right? So that just put us down. So we lost everything. I couldn't pay my mortgage. And Sylvia was like, okay, what do we do here? I've never worked for anyone. So I'm like, I started filling out a resume. I'm like, okay, I can't do this. Right? My employees, my partners, investors are like, Mosongo, this business right now, we cannot put more money into it. We know this is a calling from God, but business-wise, this is not doing it. Right. So everybody left me. So I'm like, okay. I wrote a letter. I drafted a letter. I'm going to send it out to all of our customers. I think we had sold like 5,000 then, just telling them that we're shutting down. I have to go. I have to feed my family, right? I have to shut this down and do something else. And so I drafted the letter. I didn't send it out. I said, okay, let me go to mass. This is 2016. Let me go to mass. Let me pray. Let me talk to Christ about the situation. I know this was from Him. Out of respect, let me go just pray. So I go to mass. This was a weekday mass. I prayed about it. I said, Lord, okay, I have to shut this down. I was upset. I wasn't happy. I've lost all my money, and I had a good business. I had a good financial situation. It's all gone. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go send out this email, and that's it. So after mass, I'm walking out. I met this lady and a son. I think he was about 8 years old. She says, oh, that's the Bible Zone guy. She points at me. I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean Bible Zone guy? This is a true story. She's like, Mosongo, you found a Bible Zone, right? This is my son. He is becoming a priest because of your tablet.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh my, what? Okay, I was like, okay, I didn't tell her, I just said the prayer, I'm going to shut this thing down. Now I met this lady with her son who loves the tablet, and she says he's going to be a priest. So that was a message. That was something. I said, okay. I said, well, how long have you had this tablet? She's like, I'm one of your first customers. I live down the street from your house. We go to the same parish. The good thing is the kids that don't have gadgets, they love the tablet, right? But once you give your kids an iPad, they won't like the Bible Zone. So I go back home. I look at this email. I didn't send it out. I just saved it. And after 2 weeks, I'm like, well, it's just one boy. I'm going to send out the email. Anyways, there was no other sign. So I'm like, okay, I have to shut this down. I went to mass again. For some reason, I kept holding back, not sending the email. I went to mass. I said, God, okay, that was just one boy. Is there another sign? Is there anything else? So I left mass like 3 days after. I get a call from a guy from an organization called Alhambra. They cater for special needs children. He calls me and says, are you the founder of Bible Zone? I want to order these tablets. We're looking for stuff for special needs kids. We've tried everything for faith formation. I bought a few. It seems to work for these kids. Can I order 500 copies? I said, okay. That's still not enough in terms of the business. I was like, okay, this is all weird. So I knew God wanted me to keep it for sure. So that changed everything. I went back home. I started praying. I said, okay, what's the next? I said, Lord, okay, I'm not going to go out there and look for investors. I'm not going to go take money anywhere else. You show me the sign, and I'm just going to follow through. If you want me to do this, just lead. So one day I was volunteering in my kids' school, same Catholic school that my daughter said the religion class was boring. I'm volunteering. I'm observing how the kids use technology. They had purchased a few of the tablets, but they were not using it. So when they go to science, they go to social studies, they use all this, they use the books, they use technology, they use different websites, they use apps. And then when they go to religion, there's nothing. So they're all stuck in the books. So I asked one of the librarian, I asked her, I'm like, why don't you have something for religion? She's like, well, we have your tablets, but we can't really use it because we have this, we have that. And she's like, I wish you had something online. So that's what just convinced me. I said, Lord, okay, I want to do CatholicBrain. I want to create this website. It's going to cost about 150 grand. I don't have the money, so you show me. So, and then a friend of mine, Dave Palmer, he works at Guadalupe. He's the general manager at the Guadalupe radio station. Mm-hmm. He calls me, Mosongo, I'm going to be at this Catholic bookstore, Sacred Heart bookstore. They have a few of your tablets. I'm going to be there live. You want to come over and just be live with me? So I said yes. He knew he was on my board. Actually, he knew the business was like completely down. So I was still struggling to get a job. I found some consulting work, helping some other businesses with strategy and accounting. So I was doing that on the side. So that helped to pay the bills. I could not work for anyone. I've never worked. I can only do business. So I go to this live show at Sacred Heart Bookstore. I'm chatting with Dave Palmer, who's a good friend. And then he introduced me to a lawyer, Mr. Dan Hennessy, very good Catholic, very wealthy Catholic lawyer. He was like, he's about 80 years old now. Mm. So he looked at me. He said, you made these tablets? I said, yes. It's like, okay. So he started asking me questions. He gave me his card. It's like, call me if you need any help. So Dave Palmer is like, you better call him. He's very wealthy. He loves to help Catholic business owners. So, and I was asking the Lord for the sign. I've done my research. This thing is going to cost $150,000 to build it. So I go to his office, met this lawyer. I shared my story to him. He gave me $70,000. He said, start all over.
Wow.
Mm. Start all over. So that's the money I used actually to launch the first phase of CatholicBrain. So there's just many, many areas in my life that the Lord has been very present. And I still go back to him. I say, okay, I know for sure that incident with my friends, what happened, he saved me for a reason. I know the purpose, and the purpose is the mission is in catechists, evangelizing to these wonderful children, teaching them about the truth, using technology, because we're going to lose them all if we keep giving them boring stuff, right? These kids today, they like technology, they like media, they like fun. A lot of them are saying today that the faith is boring. We don't really want that. We want to meet them where they are. So that's my mission, that's my purpose. And, there's more into the story, there's more, but I can only share what I can remember.
Oh, no, we are. Wow. I am totally blown away by your story. I mean, I just can't even, thank you for listening. There's so many people in the world, and especially, people like entrepreneurs and business people and just regular everyday people. And you had the the grace, I guess, God gave you the grace to listen, like, and to go to mass. Like, I just find it fascinating that even when you were at your worst, you still were blessing yourself and saying your Our Father at night. You know what I mean? And you
Right.
knew to go to mass, even though you really didn't you knew you had to go there and say, okay, Lord, what do you want from me? And a lot of people would have just turned, you know what I mean, and walked away and never talked to God again, especially after what happened with your best friends. So God
Yeah.
bless, God
Absolutely.
bless you in
Yeah.
never surrendering. You know what I mean? Only surrendering to the Lord, I guess, is the right way to put that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, gosh, I don't even
And
know
it's,
I don't even
it's
know where to
funny.
start.
I don't know. I have no words more
I
than that.
I mean, I think for me, it's just, I mean, there's just so many places. I'm just sitting like, what? Like, wow.
Wow.
I think the thing that strikes me the most is the courage you had to move forward
Yeah.
when you failed. See, I think a lot of the greatest ideas in human history are in cemeteries, because people are so afraid of failure, so afraid of rejection, so afraid of what other people think, that they're afraid to move their idea forward. And so they let it die. Right. And you were
Right.
almost there,
You were close many
but what
times.
you did, you kept coming back to the Lord. He said, Lord, what do you want? Is this your will? What do you, and we don't do that enough. I did that in adoration. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
All of us here
Right.
are entrepreneurs. Nick's an entrepreneur. You're not.
I'm an
You have real
entrepreneur.
estate business. We're all entrepreneurs because we have the courage to follow where God is leading us, even though it's scary. A lot of people can't do what we're doing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They can't do it because they want the security of having that paycheck every month and medical benefits and all that. But
Yeah.
in order, I think, to truly allow God to use your gifts to the full potential as an entrepreneur, you have to take risks. You have to take chances. You have to fail.
The average
fail.
entrepreneur,
Jesus fell,
fails for 9
but got
times
up.
before they succeed.
Yeah.
The average.
Jesus
Yeah.
fell, but got up and kept moving forward. That's what entrepreneurs, they fall and they get up and they keep moving
going.
forward. And trying to figure out what is God's will in all of this. That I think that is the beautiful thing that I take away, is that you always sought to do God's will, not what Mosongo wanted to do. Jesus, is this what you want me to do? Is my will and your will together in this venture? That's
Wow.
absolutely beautiful.
I think that what you're talking about.
I had a friend who told me that, hey, Mosongo, it's a guy at the post office, local post office guy. He's known me for a while. He knew my previous business. Now I'm shipping these tablets from his post office. It's like, one day it's like, dude, what are you doing? Religious article. He's a Muslim guy, right? Religious business, you're not making any money then, Mosongo. I've known you for years. What happened to your secular bit? I said, I sold. It's like, man, big mistake. It's like, man, please, I know you. You're a smart guy. You're a business guy. I know you very well. You could be doing big business. Mosongo, please. Because I was always shipping returns, right? Getting things and all that. It's like, so I told him, I answered him. He kept telling me that. So I borrowed a quote from Mother Teresa. I said, well, because I didn't even know what to answer him. I said, well, I'm not here to be successful. I'm here to be faithful. That's what I told
That's
him.
the hardest part of what you were saying, Deacon, about never giving up and just trusting and continuing and being willing to fail. That's the hardest part. What you just said, Mosongo, connecting to what Deacon said. Any entrepreneur has to be willing to take risks, but there's a massive difference between a secular entrepreneur and a Catholic entrepreneur whose entrepreneurship is in a Catholic context. There's a massive difference, because a secular entrepreneur or a Catholic who is in the secular market as an entrepreneur, if something doesn't work, they can just move on to the next thing. They can just try something new, or even rebrand what they were doing and try it again. But in the context of what you were describing in your story, Mosongo, there was a very clear and direct call from God for your work to manifest in a very specific way, in a specific category, in a specific approach, with a specific focus. And you, unless you were going to turn away from what God was calling you to, you didn't have the freedom, the liberty to just try something totally new because that didn't work. Right?
No.
Yeah. And so I just really admire the lengths that you went to and what you were willing to do for that.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. And it was hard, man, to be honest, because I had all this. Sometimes I would be tempted. I go back to my whole book of ideas. I'm like, should I go back and start something else? But through prayer, the Lord is always like, this is your will. This is what you want me to do. Okay. And I think prayer is key. Mm-hmm. And for us to do the work that we do, we got to keep connecting back to God and every step, every day, every hour, because otherwise the devil is going to crush us.
Yeah, that's what stood out to me the most, was that you always went to prayer, even at your most broken. You know what I mean? You didn't shut him out. You kept going back, going, really? What do you want from me? And that's just, I mean, and it was years. It wasn't just like, once, you just kept going back to hear the small, still, quiet voice. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Wow. Well, thank you very much, Mosongo, for sharing your testimony with us. That was absolutely beautiful. We are grateful to have you on the show. We're going to do another episode where he's going to tell us about the Catholic Brain and all about all the work that he's doing now. But that is the end of the testimony show. So we really would like you to join us and get the Awaken app on your phone. You can get it at your Apple Store or your Google Play Store, or even online. If you want to just follow us online on the browser, on YouTube, I mean, we're everywhere. So you can do that, and we would like it. And then Deacon's going to tell you how you can support us, because this does not happen for free.
Just go to theprodigallife.com, and there you will see different levels of giving that you can use to support the show. And we've tied those to the different levels of angels, right? So you can become an angel investor, if you will, in the Prodigal Life. Yeah.
Amen.
With a spiritual return, just to be clear.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, all right. Thank you, guys. Come back. God bless you all.